Thinking about symptoms when it comes to pain, I think one of the key lessons that I've learnt on the journey, that pain was for a very long time treated as a symptom or a side effect of other things. So I've lived with psoriasis for all of my life. And one of the things that you rarely hear people talk about is that psoriasis causes pain. And I've got one of the more common side effects or comorbidities, which is psoriatic arthritis. So that causes a lot of pain. And I've had a couple of really bad accidents. And all of that adds up to some fairly widespread pain. But probably the worst was and still is in my back. It ends up with I think what is quite a natural fear of not wanting to cause any more harm. So you limit your activities, you limit going out, you turn down invitations to participate in things. And almost without realizing it, because it can be something that's quite insidious, you end up very isolated. I struggle with depression, and the depression is linked to the pain, and then the depression plays funny tricks with your thinking, but it also isolates you as well. My practical world shrank from someone that was at Heathrow at 6 o'clock in the morning to fly to Copenhagen or to go to the States, or I was doing stupid amounts of traveling and meeting people. I had a very interesting and quite fulfilling sales job, and to go from that to spending days on end on my own in my flat, not talking to anybody, and for that to happen almost without realization, it's something that I struggled with, and I struggle with to this day, but I know there are things that I can do to overcome that. You keep trying to fix yourself, you keep trying to mend yourself or get back to the way that you were. So I thought if I had another injection or more frequent injections, if I had just another scan, it would tell me what was wrong. I did stupid things, like I was on a BlackBerry working while I was being wheeled down to theatre. And then I had the spinal fusion, I continued to have pain, so I had all these procedures of injections and burning nerve endings out, and then I had another procedure, a decompression, and that gave me relief for a small amount of time. And then I seemed to be back where I was with the pain. And I went to see the consultant who had done the surgery, and he said there was nothing more that they could do for me, and they discharged me. And that was one of I felt abandoned. I felt abandoned by, what care could I possibly have? How could this possibly be my life after all the effort and money that I'd put in to trying to fix myself? And I spent some difficult couple of months. I got to the point where I realized I couldn't keep going the way I was, and if there wasn't a surgical fix, there had to be another way. I was still on the path of trying to fix myself. And then I did some research. I looked into what things were available, and I found the pain management courses. And there was some online courses. There was a course at St. Thomas's. I was talking to the people at Stanmore about having a spinal cord stimulator fitted. But the real thing was that I had to start doing things for myself, and I could do things for myself. So instead of being, in some ways, relatively passive in the process, I became very active. I became the lead person in the process, and then I was looking for resources to help me, not that I was being told by other people what would fix me. I think what really helped me, and if we think about watershed moments or light bulb moments, was when I went from stop trying to fix myself and go back to the way I was, and to understand that I had a life. My focus then became on managing my pain in order to make the most of my life as it is now. Not hankering back to being down at Heathrow at 6 o'clock in the morning, because frankly that's not necessarily a great way to live one's life anyway. I guess it became formalized a little bit. We looked at a process or a methodology called ACT when I did the sort of mini pain management program at St. Thomas's. That is, if people are familiar with CBT, it's sort of similar to it. It's a way of looking at our thoughts, but it's Rather than challenging them, it looks at how we can act and behave in a way that lines our actions up with our values. And I went through the exercise with the psychologists and the physios there of coming up with a list of values for myself. Then to start looking at actions, behaviours, interventions, whatever you want to call them, that lined my life up on a daily, weekly, monthly basis with those values, rather than trying to fix myself. Pain can do all sorts of things to a person, and I've said to people, you know, it's a liar and it's a thief, and it's first cousin of depression. But that doesn't mean we can't live a life. I would say to anybody that finding a way to live with your pain, to have a support system around you, whether that's friends, family. I have a fantastic relationship with my GP, and I also stay in touch with the folks at the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital in Stanmore, and talk to the folks at St Thomas's. So I know I've got that network around me. And also be kind to yourself. It's so easy to beat oneself up when really what we should have is compassion for ourselves. We didn't choose this life. It's something that's happened, that's a byproduct of lots of other things. But it doesn't mean that you can't have an enjoyable life. I've got a couple of young daughters. They're teenage girls now, they probably wouldn't. But so they've as they've grown up, they've seen the way that my life and in some ways my boundaries have shrunk. But they've shown great understanding and compassion and empathy for me. And it must be very difficult for them. And I would say very difficult for anyone to see someone that they love go through pain and discomfort and frustration. Be patient with the person that's going through it, that they haven't chosen this life. Be understanding and be as compassionate as possible. Read up on it. There's lots of great information out there on how people can live well with pain. And it's going to be hard on the person that's watching their loved one, so be compassionate with yourself. And it's almost like have your own support group as well. Because I know it's been very difficult. It's been very difficult, particularly on my mum, who's struggled. She's seen me struggle with health pretty much all through my life. Have compassion and understanding, and arm yourself with some knowledge, but also have that same compassion for yourself.